turned my oval egg into more of a polygon shape. Okay, it kind of looks like the back of a polar bear right now. Put his haunches out like that. Okay, here's the round handle. You can just draw right along with me. Now we're going to make that squared off. Okay, I think I have, nope, it's not, I thought maybe I had a message there, but it just says we're streaming live, so on YouTube. Okay, so now I'm going to go around it, and it's almost like I made a little hexagon shape around my handle. And because this has got depth, dimension, the handle has dimension, I'm going to make parallel lines around it. It's interesting, if you study China patterns after the 1930s, after Cubism became a thing, you will see that there are more hexagon and square-shaped plates and a lot of things that used to be traditionally round now became squared off. And they're kind of fun. It's kind of fun to do that. Okay, so now I've got my base. Let's work on the apple. So an apple is typically all round. So I'm going to put a round shape in front of, because it's sitting on the table. So it's in front of the base, but now I'm going to square it up. So just draw a series of lines. If these lines inside are bothering you, like you see the picture behind, you could take your finger or something, you could go ahead and try to erase that. My charcoal is not going to come off very well at this point. So just know that that line is going to go away because I'm not painting it. Okay, now the cup. So we're going to have a round shaped cup for Mother's Day. Who doesn't like a nice cup of coffee, cup of tea on the table? So I got my little oval shape, and inside the oval is the rim of the cup. So I'm going to have another, right? We're going to have another little oval. I'm going to square it off, right? No curves. If you've got curves, fix them. Of course, everybody wants curves. I don't know why we don't fix them. Yes. Okay, so I just squared that off to make it more interesting. And now I'm going to put a little handle because I just think the handles add another layer of fun and whimsy to it. I mean, you could just have a cup without a handle. And you could put your handle on this side or your handle on this side. I think I'm going to put mine right here, but I'm going to square it off. This is my easiest way to teach Cubism. Draw the circle and then square it off. It's just easier that way than fussing with a ruler or trying to get it exact. Okay, so I have an apple, I've got the cup, I have the pitcher, and now I want to add my three little beautiful flowers that maybe you got for Mother's Day, or in my case, mine are fake, and I have them year round, but I still love them anyway. So I'm going to have a big one up here, so let's draw the circle. It's going to be this guy. Okay, and I'm going to square them off. All right, now I have one here on the side. I'm going to make this shape oval because it's going to be a droopy one, a droopy little poppy or a rose. We don't really know what it is. This isn't realism, remember. It's just an idea. It's coming off the Impressionistic period where we're just giving an idea of what things are. Okay, so now I'm going to square off my oval. I love that. Yeah? Okay, and then last but not least, I'm going to have a little rosebud or a poppy bud or something over here. So he's a smaller circle, and I'm going to square him off. Maybe I'll go zigzag a little bit on that one. Okay, so that's that. If you want to add a plate, like a little tray beneath the thing, you could add a little thing. You could put a little plate underneath here. Okay, but I'm not going to do that for the sake of time. But that's what that is, a little plate right here. Okay, I think I'm ready, other than I want to now make these look more dimensional. I want to make them 3D. Remember, part of the Cubist movement was to still take something that's flat and make it 3-dimension, just as you would with a realist painting. But instead of us using a lot of shade and shadow, we're actually going to use lines. So I'm going to make this picture cut up into two sides and a middle. So it looks like it's turning the corner. So give yourself 2 lines. I don't care how you cut it up, but give yourself 2 vertical lines. I tried to simplify it in just a little visual for you. Do you see the 2 lines? Okay, so that way you know how you can cut it. All right, we're going to do the same thing for the flowers. 2 lines in each flower. So I'm going to do a line here and a line there. Doesn't that already start to look like a flower opening up? And let's do it here. 1 and 2, 1 and 2. If you want to put 3 and 4 and you have, additional time later, you can certainly dissect it even more. But that's going to allow us to see different sides to the object. Same thing with the apple. Apples usually have cores. So I'm just going to draw myself a polygon right here where that little stem might be coming out. And maybe I'll do this side to the apple and this side to the apple. So remember, I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Are you getting the idea? You got a middle and 2 sides. This is exciting. You can cut the cup up too. I could cut it here. I could cut it here. And now we're ready to paint. Easy peasy, or easy pieces. We should call it pieces. If you're a fiber or a quilter, you might really like this idea because it might be easy for you to just cut it up. Okay, so I'm going to look at my palette now. This is my palette. A palette just means what you're putting your colors on and colors that you chose. Right? So I am going to take my hog's hair brush, which is my brush that feels really heavy, and it's going to hold more paint in the background and whatnot. And I'm going to work on this base first. So I'm going to make 3. I'm going to use the green that I had on my plate, but I'm going to make a gray. I'm going to make a light green and a dark green by using white and black. But you could use yellow, make yellow green. You could use blue and make blue green. But have 3 greens. If you want a yellow base, that's fine. Just make a light yellow and a dark yellow, right? So I'm going to do green, just like the picture that I did for my sample here, and that's what we're going to do. So okay, this is going to be the middle of my base. That middle section. This is where I can clean up my lines to cover up anything that I had first drawn as a circle. Don't forget to put in the little bit that's behind the handle. Okay, so there is section number 1. Now I'm going to make a light green. So I could use yellow with my green, or you could use white. You'll get kind of a limey, minty green. You just use white. I like this chartreuse color. That base that I showed you is made by Russell Wright. And I was a collector of some of his things as when I was practicing architecture. I just love his designs and his colors. Okay, so this is going to be my light side of my cubist base. Now I'm going to come back in a little bit and probably put another layer. If you keep trying to brush it right now, you're just brushing off paint and you're just wondering why it's so transparent. Depending on the quality of your paint, I'm just using student grade today, probably what you could get at Michael's and whatnot. But the tint is not as heavy in those paints. And so you'll find that if you add a little white to it, which white is opaque, then you're going to get a little bit more solid in your first coat. If not, just add a second coat and just know that as you get more involved, and you'll find what paints work for you and give you the coverage that you want. I try to keep it on the beginner side because I don't know what you have handy, and I don't want you going out and spending a lot of money on stuff when you're just learning. You're just learning what to do. Okay, now I'm going to do the dark side. So this is going to be my dark side of my base. I think that all I need to do is just add a tad of black. Black is opaque, and it can take over your entire painting. So I didn't even put it on my palette. I'm just dipping up another plate of some black because I just want a little bit, and it could contaminate all of my other colors. So if I put a little black with my green, see how I'm doing that? That's a little too much black, so I gotta have more. A little black goes a long way, guys. Like if you still have so much black, that's just too much. There we go. There's a nice dark green. You can shape the top of the lid a little bit better up there. Okay, so now I have a cubist base, and I think what I'm going to do now is work on the handle since I've got these colors in front of me fresh. So I could break it up, and each part of the handle of the hexagon could be a light, dark, and light. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about what would be the dark side of each part of the handle. So I'm going to put a little dark here, a little dark here, maybe here, like the underside of the handle, and then put light on the outside. So think about your light source. Where is Mr. Sun on your kitchen light? Just like that. And I'm going to add another layer later. Okay, so my little cup here is also in the green feeling, like as if they were a matching set. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the grassy green out front. And I'm going to put the light green on the right side, just like the base. It's almost like playing puzzle and doing the same pattern if you're repeating it. I hope y'all are really enjoying this. It's actually just it's good to learn different styles of art. This would be the style, the genre, crossing into the abstract. You know, it's not something that you would picture in your mind a vase or something looking like. So people had never seen anything like this in 1909 when he started doing his adaptation of modern art. You can imagine people like, oh, what is that? Okay, I'm going to make the handle dark. All right, now this is the inside of the cup. So you could choose to do it the color of whatever's in your cup, coffee or tea or milk or whatever's in there. Or you could just put in another, maybe a lighter green even than this one, because you're looking down into the glass. So I'm just going to add some white to my yellow green. And that's how I'm getting this really fun lemon lime color. That sounds good in the summertime, doesn't it? Okay, so now I have the two objects in my still life. Okay, who doesn't love doing an apple? That's probably the first thing that you started doing when you took an art class. At least that's what I always start off with my students. So let's go ahead and look at our reds and our oranges. And we're going to do the same process. We're going to do a color for the middle of the apple. We're going to pick a light side and a dark side. And then you can do the top of the apple, even add a little white to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put orange in here. This one's going to be like a Gala apple or a Fuji. It's going to have a little bit of red, yellow, orange. Okay, so we've got some orange going there. Orange is also a transparent color because it's got yellow. Yellow just tends to need those second coats. Anytime you have a color that has yellow as one of the base, just like me, is making yellow. You might have to come back and add more coats later. Okay, so I'm going to do a yellowy orange. I'm going to take some yellow with the orange. It's kind of fun with cubism too, to just do whatever you have, whatever paint you have. Like you could have done this in all neutrals, all browns and blacks. In fact, Picasso would do that. He didn't have a specific color palette that he loved. He would just go for it. Use what he had and see what comes up. Because you're not trying to make it real, like it really is. Okay, so now I have kind of a yellowy orange side to my apple. And then I'm going to do a red side, a red orange to the dark side. Okay, so there's my little cute apple. And now all I gotta do is add a little white to my yellow orange. Kind of makes peachy colors running into my blue there. And I'll put that on top. I can add stems later for the apple and the flowers. So now I'm using my napkin because I have a little drip going there. Okay, so we've got the three objects, easy peasy, right? Now we're going to go up and do the flowers themselves. So they could be roses, they could be poppies, I don't know. You can make them whatever color you want. I'm just sticking with the kind of red-green because they're good opposites. They actually look good together, so that's kind of why I chose what I chose. I'm going to switch now to a horsehair brush that feels more like a makeup brush, something that's real smooth. It also could be synthetic, so it just feels real smooth. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but today I'm using straight flat head brushes because we're doing straight lines. Typically, I use round brushes for round objects and straight for straight. Just kind of a hint there, but it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the flowers. I'm going to have an orange middle. I'm so excited there's so many of us today. I think because you know what, I think you're ready to be challenged. And I really do. I feel like some of you have been with me for a while, and even if it's your first time following along with me, you're ready to kind of get that confidence in studying something that maybe you haven't done before. I'm just so proud of you all. Please send me your work after you're done. I love seeing what people create. So this is going to be my dark side because it's furthest away from the light. I know, it doesn't look like much yet, but when you add those black outlines, it looks really cool. So I'm not really worried that I have boxy looking flowers. Okay, so this is the dark side because my sun is hitting over here. So that's the dark. So think about that. Think, where would my darkest of the three? So if you're doing a purple flower, you have in the middle you have a purple, then you have a deep purple like an eggplant, and then you have a lavender or a violet in your light side. Okay, so that's the dark on each side where the sun doesn't hit it. Now I'm going to do the medium shade. I don't even know why I'm washing my brush. These colors are so similar. This is where you can square things off a little better. If you got too round when you're sketching, you can square it off. Okay, so now I'm going to do it on this one over here. This cute little bud. He's coming up. He isn't quite fully opened. If you haven't gathered, I like things in odd numbers. So I have 3 little blooms here, and I've got 3 inanimate objects down here. Actually, they're all inanimate because you pick the flowers. They're no longer blowing in the wind, right? They're not living anymore, so they are still. But we're bringing them to life. Okay, and then I have this side here that's got more yellow in it because he's in the sun. Okay, I'm going to have to go back around on my yellows for me because I use charcoal underneath. So that black is coming through my transparent yellow. I don't typically use charcoal unless I'm teaching you online because that way you can see it a little bit better. But I will have to cover that with another coat for sure. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to come down here to the table. And hopefully I'm not going too quickly through it all. How do you make brown? I'm going to make a brown table. Most people make brown and I don't even think about it. Because they just take their brush and they go, whoop, and all of that makes brown. So it is all the primaries. So you could take, or secondaries. You could take your green, your blue, a little bit of your orange or red. And you make brown. Or you can get it out of the can, whatever you prefer. You can add white to it. That's looking a little mossy green because I don't have a file of blue. I got like a cobalt blue. So, depending on what blue, yellow, and red you make, your browns are all going to look different. So let's see if I can change that up a bit. There we go. All right, so here's going to be my wood oak table. And this is where I can clean up my apple. I can straighten up the lines. Look how I'm just pulling it right next to the apple to straighten it up. I'll straighten it up right here. This is giving me time for the objects to dry too before I put the second coat on. That's why I'm moving down here to the table. There is a method to my madness. It is acrylic paint. It will dry quickly unless you are in a very humid environment where you might have to go drink a glass of water and then come back. But acrylics were amazing when they came on the scene. These would not have been around in 1910. So by the 60s, we had acrylics, and we were able to do a lot. You can crank out a painting in no time, just like we're doing now. I do use oil paints in some of my work, so I am familiar with it. It has a whole different look. It gives you more of a sheen. The blending is a lot different, creamy. You can make your paintings look like oil. This one has a finish on it, so depending on what kind of paints you have, it may not have a sheen, it may be matte, it could be semi-gloss, you could be mixing, you might have a matte blue and a semi-gloss red, right? So a lot of times what I do is I put a gloss medium over the entire painting when I'm done. One, it just looks good, you know, it just has a nice like oil feeling, but two, it knocks everything to the same level so that you don't have a matte cup and a glossy vase. But you don't need it for protection of the painting because acrylic has the protection in it already. And you can always ask me these questions. Feel free to email them to me. If you just put Deborah at deborahfoleyart.com, that's my email. And you can ask me about the gloss medium or any other questions you might have. Notice it's really hard to be in your creative brain and use your speech at the same time. So if I stall halfway through a sentence, because I'm switching back and forth. To be creative, if you are a artist and you really want to stay creative, you know, just have maybe soft music in the background that has no words so that you won't be in your speech and recollection area. You really are staying in your creative part. See what happens. You can call, you know, Aunt Milda later after you're finished if you really want to stay creative. That's the being multitasking, you're talking at the same time. I've done it, that's why I explain that. And then sometimes my games don't come out the way I'm like, that didn't turn out very well. Okay, I now have most everything except the background done, right? And usually we do backgrounds first if you've been in my classes. But I really wanted to get this first level layer of paint onto your cubist objects before we do the background. So the background can be treated now any which way you want. In this one, well, in the realist, I had like I set up a sheet that had all the wrinkles and folds so that I could show the different lights and darks in the background. In this one, I just cubed it up. I just put a bunch of lines and put just, you know, random light, medium, dark in each of them. And so we're going to do the same thing. I am going to not do as heavy a color because I want this to come forward. So whatever you do for the background is going to be light, very light, which means you're going to add white to everything. So here we go. I'm making like a minty white green. And maybe that's going to be this area right here. I'll just have a triangle with that right here. I'm not going to get my ruler out and measure anything. That looks straight enough. That looks good enough. Think of it like wallpaper from the 70s, right? Where we had all these graphic lines in our paper. Okay, so maybe I'm going to have another swath of it over here. I'm just sticking to the greens because that's what's mostly on my palette, but if you wanted a purple wall, just make it light, right? That way your objects pop forward. So whatever you do, keep it light in the background. And because I can see it through the handle, I need to carry it through the handle. Again, this is where you can shore up your lines. Anything that might curvy. Okay, now I'm going to add some white to the medium green. I'm going to get a whole different look. It's almost like sea foamy. Interesting. I'm just making blocks of color. It's like color blocking, really, isn't it? It's just making a big swath of it. Keeping it in the cubist style. It would be odd if we just switched all of a sudden to circles in the background. It wouldn't be wrong, it just would be odd. You would be like, because right now the dominant line type is straight lines. And let's put some over here. This is a gallery wrapped canvas, so I'm going over the edges over here. I'm wondering what I'm doing. This is on a panel board, so I didn't have to do the edges, but a lot of times I work on a gallery wrapped, which means the staples are wrapped behind. It's got a piece of 1 by 1.5 wood frame inside, and the canvas is stapled to the back. Because sometimes I take it off I take the canvas off of that wood and I will stitch through it. So there's a reason I like from time to time do a straight one to be gallery wrapped. Or you don't have to frame it, right? It's like ready, it's ready finished. You can prop it up on your mantelpiece. Because framing does cost a lot of money. Tricks of the trade. Oh, looks like I forgot a whole yellow piece right there. Add that in. Okay, we're getting some background. Yeah, I totally forgot this little section over here. I'm just making oblong, straight shapes, you know, just odd polygons back there. I think with these, I'm now going to use just white and black and just do a gray instead of a dark green because I don't want it to compete with this particular base color. So I'm just going to mix a little white. Just take some white on my black. Remember, a little black goes a long way. Use more white than black. How about just even a pinch of black? Instead of a pinch of salt, see, like that's just too much, right? So we have to add more white. You can even add a little green to it. You'll get a greeny gray. You are fun the more you play with color. See what all you can create. That's still a little too dark for me, so in the whole scheme of things. So I'm just going to paint wet on wet right here on the canvas. That means I'm just dipping in my white and just going right over my wet gray to lighten my gray. I'm painting wet on top of wet. And I'm going to go around that. I haven't done the stems yet. I know you're going, what about the stems? Because that would have been too hard to go around the stems. Those go on last. There's my gray in that section. And I'll put a gray over here. Just keeping the background light to keep my inanimate objects coming forward. We used to call these classes Tondo on Tuesdays. I love the word Tondo because it means round. But that wouldn't work for today because we're not doing anything round. And last but not least, we got a little triangle hanging out over here. Okay, everything's filled in with its first layer. And now I can go back into a second layer on top of everything. Everybody looks like they're busy. Okay, so I'm going to get my palette. I'm going to go for that. I'm going to start right where I began. You can change the color up a little bit if you didn't like it the first time. Just think of it like a base coat. You prime the canvas, it's ready to go. All's not lost. Whenever I'm painting a red wall, I always have to put a gray primer underneath it. Otherwise, I do have to do like 5 coats of red. So just because you primed it one color doesn't mean it's staying that color. Why do you think gray works as a good primer? Because black and white are okay. Yes, I do paint walls too. I love doing big pieces of work art on walls. Okay, so there's my second coat of that moving green. Now I'm going to go do the light green. I don't need to wash my brush. It's already got green on it. Oh, this is going to look so pretty. Love chartreuse. You can straighten up the lines. If you've got a little wonky, right? You can introduce a fourth green if you want. I think this one I have like, I don't know, I think I got 6 in that one, but I had a little bit more on. So we're making a little bit easier today. We're learning the techniques. Okay, if your yellow is still too transparent, like I said, add white to your yellow. You get more opacity. And the cup gets another pass. And the cup gets another pass. And the side of the cup gets another pass. It's like having a second cup of coffee. Yeah, see, it just really comes together. That second coat really helps. Oops, I had a little yellow on my other opposite side of my brush. At this point, I'm not using my hog's hair. I'm just sticking with that synthetic brush, right? I'm just still using the flathead synthetic. Okay. All right, I think I got all my green zones. Now I'm going to move to my red and yellow. We still have outlining to do, so we're not going to outline everything. We're not going to be like Matisse and outline everything. We're going to add black because it's really, really going to push the cubes in a dimension you're going to love. I'm going to put more orange because this is definitely too transparent. I can see all that charcoal underneath. Look at that. It's better already. And while my brush still has that orange on it, I'm going to do the flowers. So I don't have to clean the tween. I'm just, anything that was orange, I'm going to make orange. The second time around. So I don't have to clean it, the brush again and again. If your orange is still too transparent, you can add a little white to it to give it a little more solidity, right? Okay, so now I'm going to move to the red. I don't need to wash my brush. This orange is made from red. This is where you can tap into your kindergarten skills. How do you make orange? And right here. And right here. Wow. It is really coming together. I bet yours is looking awesome. It is not that hard. It really isn't that hard. Okay, so now we're going to do yellow. Remember I said add a little white to your yellow and you will be happier. My yellow's gotten contaminated with green. When I'm holding it up like this to you guys, it's just dripping. So I'm going to have to come find a little uncontaminated piece of bright yellow here, put some white with it. There's some yellow. I was like, what happened to the yellow? Okay. And then I just want a little bit of peachiness on the top of my apple before I add the stem. Like that. And I want a little bit of cream in my coffee. Oh, actually I drink my coffee black. So. But it looks good in the cubist painting if we cube it up a little more. Oops, I got a drip. I'll use a napkin to catch my drip since I'm working vertical today. Okay. Now I want to have an inside to my base where the flowers are coming out. So I've got a little creamy white from my coffee cup. And I'm going to put that inside my base like a little square. Or you could do it in black if you want. But that's the inside of my base where the stems are going to come out. Okay, now while I'm waiting for that little hole in my base to dry, I'm going to come back here and add a little more brown to my table. Second coat. You could cube up the table too if you want, right? You could add an orange patch to your table and put colored sugar cubes. One of the first paintings I ever sold was an apple. And then the second painting I sold was sugar cubes, a coffee cup with a donut. So I think that's kind of funny. They're recognizable objects as something in your everyday life. I think that's why people are attracted to still lifes, you know. But the master artist, honestly, they didn't have enough money to pay for a model or travel to do architecture, so, or have a camera. We didn't have a camera. So you just painted whatever was right in front of you. That's how you practiced. Paint the spoon, paint the chair, you know. That's what you did. You just paint what you have to practice. Okay, so now what we're going to do is a little bit more on the background. I'm just going to kind of pick up any holidays that I might have missed. Holidays just mean, you know, you missed a spot on the canvas. Usually it's right here where the two triangles are connecting because you were afraid to get next to it or overlap it. So I'm just going to cover those holidays. You don't want to leave any canvas part exposed. Even if it's going to be white anyway. Because again, the sheen will be off. You'll just notice there's something wrong with your picture. So, looks to me like my gray. My gray needs a second coat over here. All right, we're almost ready to add some black low lights and some white highlights. That's the last thing I do on every painting. You can always, then, you know, if it's drying out, the little gray that you made, just add a little water to it, right, to extend it. And look at that. And I don't have to go and mix up a new gray. I don't have to waste time doing that. Just activate it with a little bit of water. It's still damp. It's just not a lot of paint on there. And I can activate just enough to cover up some of my holidays. Okay, the next part is going to bring it all together, you guys. If you have a round brush, you could use it right now. When I mean a round brush, I mean like a smooth fog's hair or synthetic round. You know, it could be a number 6 or smaller. Follow the brush. I'm silly, I know. My husband says I'm kooky, but I don't know. I guess it's just me. But you could use the same brush you were just using. I think you're cookies when you enjoy what you're doing, is what I think. That's my excuse. I don't think a cookie when I'm not. I'm just crazy. Okay, so my water was really contaminated with a lot of gray and dark green, so I'm getting a fresh little piece of water here. And I'm gonna now take my brush, and you can see that I've got just this fine line of black going. So we don't want a big fat black line like I did in this very rudimentary, as I was thinking about what we were gonna do today. This has a very thick black line. We're gonna do a very thin black line, if that's possible. And I'm gonna show you how it's possible. It may take a little bit of practice, so do not get frustrated when you're first learning how to do this. The trick is not to just dip your whole brush in the black, and now you've got it up here on the metal part and all over the wood. I just dipped it like I'm dipping a fountain pen, okay? And horsehair will not hold much paint, so just know you're always going to be re-dipping. You can't just keep going till the paint has already run out, right? You have to remember to keep dipping. So I'm going to start right here, using my little pinky as my steady friend here, and now I'm going to redip. Look how I'm pulling away. I don't go in a direction that's going up and down, and I don't go like this up and down. And that's how you're going to get a hairy line rather than a straight line. Okay, just like that. That makes all the difference, just that little outlining. Okay, so let's try it here on the outside of the handle. If you goof up, it's okay. It'll dry, you may write over it. Or you can catch it while it's still wet. Dip your napkin in some water and try to gently rub it away. Obviously, do not do it if it's still wet. If it's a wet green handle, you're putting black over a wet green handle. Okay, I like to do the black outlining against a negative background. So this is all negative space back there, believe it or not, right? The wall is way back there. So this really helps that handle come forward. I'm also going to do it here because the cup is sitting up on top of the table. So it's also touching air. So I'm going to outline that. It's kind of something we learned in architecture school. Like I don't have to do the bottom of the cup. You don't have to do that. Unless you think it needs it. You're the artist, you get to decide when enough is enough, right? You have to decide, do I have too much black going? Like, I'm not going to do these lines inside the cup. That just be too much. Too much. But I might want to do the lip of the cup because it's touching air. Just like that. I'm going to do the bottom of the apple. I could. I don't have to. But that orange is a little close to the brown color, so I think I'm going to put there. But not the whole apple. And I'm going to do a little bit of the outside of the vase because it's touching air. Touching air. How do you touch air? I don't even know that's a crazy soon. Oh, see, I ran out of paint. I was trying to go too fast. Along the line. But I'm not going to do the inside. It's just a smooth base. I just want to give the illusion that it is round on this 2D canvas. Okay? And last but not least, we have our flowers. And yes, we still have to do our stems. This is where you could break up your cubist flowers into more blocks. So let's say, see, I have more. Look at that. I'm breaking up that rose with my black into more facets, like facets of a diamond. You see that? Yeah. All just with the block. Okay. Same thing with this. This looks kind of, it just looks like a ugly shape right now, but we're going to turn it into a beautiful diamond. By adding some more cubist shapes to it. Okay, and last but not least, this little bud here. If we're going too fast, these are things that you can still add after we're done. You know, you can cube it up as much as you want. You could cut your meat up as much as you want. Okay, now I'm going to add the stems. I'm going to go back to some green, my dark green. Okay, so I know I have a stem coming out of here. Make sure your dark green has a little black to give it some, again, some solidity. And this one is kind of going crooked. Remember, no curves. So make it a zigzag or an L. That's your challenge today. And we have one over here. It's just fun. It's fun to think of things, challenge yourself not to go the traditional curve. And then we've got a little stem on our apple. And then I add a little white, because white is your powerhouse. That's your shine. So take a little white with the same brush that I used for the black, and wherever the light is hitting it, you know, Mr. Sun is coming down on this side. I will put it either right on top of the block or just on the light sides. Right here on the shiny handle, maybe on the light side of this stem, maybe on the tip of this shiny cup, maybe on the light and beautiful side of that shiny apple. Oh, this would be a fun one to do in fabric. I might just have to do it. I think I've done still. Oh no, I've done flowers, you know, like in a vase, but I haven't done inanimate objects like this. And on the shiny side, top of this apple. Oh my gosh, that apple looks good enough to eat. That's another thing. Talk to yourself, you know, encourage yourself when you paint. Don't get too frustrated. It's a work in progress. And last but not least, we're going to sign our name. If you skip this part, you could sign it cubist. So you already have cube looking names. Like Karen, all of your letters are straight. So I have a few round in mine, like Deborah. So, but I usually sign my name, my last name when I work. So my G has to be QB. My E needs to be kind of cubey, and Y is already cubey. It just kind of goes with it. Kind of fun. Yeah, in this one, I cubed up the table a little more, and I added a plate. You can do that if you want to later. But that is a cutest still, just like that. I think it's fun, again, to think of things in a different way. You know, just try, especially if you're frustrated with drawing a perfect apple. You know that nothing is perfect. In fact, there's a lot of imperfections in the apple where a caterpillar ate through it or it got dinged and it was starting to rot in places. So I think if you think of things as already being imperfect, or try things in a straight lines rather than curved, just to get you over that feeling of inadequacy or lack of confidence. Because art is just about practicing and exploring and discovering what you can do. So, if anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to take questions while we continue to paint for a few more minutes. And again, if you need to email me, you can do that. Deborah, D-E-B-R-A, at deborahgoldart.com. And my next class, in partnering with the city, which is completely free, is June the 8th. So June 8th of next month. That'll be fun, so you guys can join me again. I haven't posted yet what the new class is. Remember, they're working on the website as to the new registration process. But I'm sure that we can get, if you were able to get in today to do live with me, you have your email address, and we'll be able to send you what the new subject's going to be for June. June 8th, same time, 11 a.m. if you're in Arizona, Mountain Standard Time. If you were somewhere else, just put that in your app to figure out what time zone that is for you, so you can join us. Because I know we have a lot of people who are joining us who were just here for the winter months, and now they're back in their other home, or they're traveling now. And so that's fun that you can take your paints along with you, or just pick up a little small set of primary colors, red, blue, yellow, black, and white, and you have pretty unique two brushes. You can paint on cardboard if you don't have ink in canvas near you. So just know, use what you have, paint over an old paint. We will be just using acrylic in June, so it's not going to be one of our collage classes or anything like that. We'll just keep on working on acrylic medium. And let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, so if you give me or the city your artwork, it could be put onto a online gallery. And I think that's always fun. You don't have to put your name. You could be anonymous, but you could title the art. You could say "Still Life with Mom," right? Like it's a cup with an apple or whatever. So that you, oh my gosh, some of you are already showing me your work. I mean, it's so nice. And I love it. I love. And this is what I mean. When we share our work, when we share what we've done together and celebrate how unique all of us are, because your cutest piece is going to look totally different one. Look how different mine are doing it 3 times. If you just don't always look the same, it depends on, your mood, your season, and it's you. It's your style. And I think that's something to be celebrated. So do not ever think you have to make it look just like mine. Because I don't even look like mine. So that's just, it's okay. All good. Yay! I'm so good to see all of your work. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Oh, Judy, that is so pretty. You guys rocked this. You totally got it. I was afraid to do this with you guys because I wasn't sure you'd even know the cubism. That is beautiful, Pat. I love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing that with me. Part of my joy of instructing is seeing what you do. It's really been hard for me not to be in the classroom, like over your shoulder, and chatting with you and making suggestions. It's been difficult, so it's good to see the feedback from you. I'm not usually this chatty, but when anybody else in the room, I feel like I'm trying to make a little I don't even put music on anymore in the background until I edit it myself because apparently you can't do that. You might be copyrighting a song or something. So I don't even put any music on anymore. But good. All right. Well, until next time, which will be I think 4 weeks from now. So get another canvas ready. Get your paints ready, and we'll meet again June the 8th. And until